Next, 4 urban explorers venture back in time to uncover the lost ruins of Buffalo, New York. Across the nation, the relics of America's past lie abandoned and forgotten. Factories, theaters, missile silos. This is the realm the homeless call home. A netherworld of rats and toxic waste. And these are the chronicles of the Forbidden Zone expeditions. A series of inner treks to find and explore America's lost archaeological wonders and bring them back to life. This week's chosen city is the birthplace of hot wings, a home where buffalo never really roamed at all. Buffalo, New York. The Queen City of the Great Lakes once had more millionaires per capita than any other place in America. Today, emerging from the grips of a 50-year decline, Buffalo is an urban explorer's dream. Site 1, the abandoned Central Terminal. During World War II, thousands of combat-bound GIs passed through this huge train station. Many grabbed a good luck clump off a shaggy city mascot rumored still hidden somewhere inside. Site 2, the boarded-up Church of the Transfiguration. Are its precious church bells still hanging in the tower? If our urban explorers can find them, it might help save this historic church from the wrecking ball. Site 3, Concrete Central, the biggest of Buffalo's abandoned grain elevators, where the team will find out just what breakfast cereal and teenage lust have in common. For the urban exploration team, Buffalo's time capsules conceal priceless artifacts, each with a story to reveal. This week's urban explorers are Bryce Tupper, structural engineer; Steve Duncan, urban historian; and world-class climbers Brittany Griffith and Timmy O'Neill. Stick with them and venture into hidden corners of the city that even the locals don't know exist.
Here we are on top of the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium, former home of the Buffalo Sabres. We'll be checking out the Buffalo Central Terminal. We'll also be going to the Church of the Transfiguration. And then we'll also be checking out the grain elevators. Wait, I think I see the Buffalo Central Terminal right now. Let's get on the ropes, kids. Stevie, you getting ready over there?
Yep.
I'm gonna check you before I go on. Yeah, price is good.
Exploring Buffalo, or any city, often calls for buildering, the urban sport of scaling tall buildings. After their bird's-eye view of the city, a short drive will bring them to Site 1, the abandoned Buffalo Central Terminal.
Nice. This is it, guys.
Oh, we gotta get in there.
It's been shut down for over 25 years, but the Central Terminal still dominates Buffalo's skyline, a testament to the glorious construction it was.
I'm a professional.
The architects of the Buffalo Central Terminal used an Art Deco style, which was pretty common in the 20s and 30s. You can tell in the building by the vertical protrusions and depressions. Actually, inside is supposed to be a whole lot more adventurous in terms of the style of architecture they use, so I'm really looking forward to getting inside of the structure.
When it opened in June of 1929, the Buffalo Central Terminal was no doubt one of the country's grandest railway stations. Its architects had designed it for a booming industrial city that needed to accommodate 200 passenger trains a day. Among its state-of-the-art features was a baggage subway, underground ramps that connected to the 14 passenger tracks. In World War II, the passengers included thousands of US GIs on their way to battle Nazi troops. These war-bound soldiers would pass by a giant stuffed bison on display in the concourse. and the buffalo bison quickly became a good luck token to soldiers leaving for combat. Rumor has it that this shaggy beast still roams the terminal today.
We're right over here by the
Look at the size of that thing.
passenger concourse, right?
Really? So which way are we gonna go?
That's Curtis Street.
The team splits up to cover more ground.
So we need to get to the tunnels.
Steve and Timmy will look for those abandoned baggage ramps that locals say hide an underground chop shop for stolen cars.
Main terminal where the baggage was.
How is it up there?
Really rusty.
Bryce and Brittany will hunt for the buffalo bison. That means their first challenge is finding a way into the concourse.
Rope.
Got it.
Ooh, I'd like to watch you struggle.
Let's go, Britt.
All right.
This place is huge. Way bigger than I imagined.
So cool.
There's no question that terminals like this were the structures of the day.
Wow.
It was all made possible by the advances in steel technology in the late 19th and early 20th century. Steel became stronger, the grades became better, the sections became more efficient, and allowed engineers to push the limits and create huge spaces like this. I guess they thought the sky was the limit back then, literally. Britt, enough of the silence. Let's go find that bison.
Outside, Steve and Timmy are rooting around on the backside of the structure, looking for a way down to those underground baggage ramps they know are underfoot.
This place was built in 1929. They had a separate way for passengers to get across to the trains and for baggage. The passenger concourse was blasted apart in the 80s so they could run freight trains through here. But the baggage tunnels, which went underneath the track level and then back up to the platform, should still be intact, and they haven't been touched in the past 30 years since this place was shut down. So I'm hoping we can get over to the passenger platforms that way.
Oh, this looks promising, Steve.
If the rumors are true, we might find some stolen vehicles down here too. Who knows, we might run across my 81 Vega.
Oh.
Perfect. Bingo!
Ever since they were abandoned, these long-forgotten tunnels have served as an ideal haven for less than legal activities. It should make for an interesting exploration.
What would this have been? I don't see any railroad tracks.
Steve and Timmy have accomplished part one of their objective, finding these subterranean ramps. But now they have to figure out how these passages connect to the main terminal building, which, from the wet looks of things, promises to be a sloshy affair.
Oh no! Water!
Rain and melted snow naturally flow down into these tunnels, but the drainage system stopped working long ago. So Steve and Timmy face a trek through scum-covered, frigid water.
You know, water, and I'm not so psyched on the water because I love kayaking, I love water, I love surfing, but to get my shoes wet, to get my clothing wet, you know, doing this exploration through this murky, kind of scummy water, not so nice. Yeah. So these tunnels were designed to deliver the baggage back and forth?
Yeah, they had these little electric carts that would carry the baggage from the main building we saw over to the train. And they'd come up along this tunnel and then out to the train through something like this, yeah.
Steve's right. These underground ramps connecting the main concourse to the train platforms were state-of-the-art for pre-Depression era train stations. 70 years ago, these now waterlogged tunnels teemed with traffic. Porters operating small electric carts carrying passenger luggage or prepared foods would zip through here on their way to or from the train cars. The speediest cart driver could get from the passenger concourse to the train tracks in just under 2.5 minutes. Up next on Urban Explorers, Steve and Timmy push deeper into the tunnels and discover criminal evidence left behind by some of Buffalo's less savory residents.
I think I know what this is, dude.
Well, up top, Brittany and Bryce have a beastly encounter.
What are you doing?
In Buffalo, New York, our 4 urban explorers have made their way into the city's abandoned central train terminal, a ruin holding the secrets of downtown Buffalo's boom years. Bryce and Brittany seek a stuffed bison that was once a good luck charm for combat-bound troops. Deep beneath the station, Steve and Timmy searched the terminal's forgotten baggage ramps for artifacts, including stolen cars rumored hidden down here.
I really like being in underground spaces. They're otherworldly, and they're fairly inaccessible.
When some of the water was recently pumped out of these tunnels, the police thought for sure they'd find some dead bodies. They didn't, which doesn't mean there aren't any down there.
I think I know what this is, dude. This is a subterranean chop shop. This is where they bring the cars to unload them.
They found it. This auto, stripped of its wheels and engine, is proof that these tunnels have found criminal purpose in the modern age. No big surprise, really. It turns out that the rate of car thefts in Buffalo is about twice the national average.
This is better than what I drive.
Hey,
Is that a Pinto?
this guy was a bowler.
What, is there a bowling ball in it?
Everything's gone except the bowling ball in the backseat.
Nice bowling ball, dude.
This place is
It's
awesome.
pretty good condition.
Up top, Bryce and Brittany are getting a feel for just how magnificent the central terminal was as they search for the elusive buffalo bison.
Pretty good condition.
So wait a sec. So what's up with
Okay,
this
wait.
bison?
We gotta find
you
the
know
bison.
What, why are we looking for a bison?
The story was that soldiers going off to war from World War II on would take a piece of its
Like
coat.
any war from World War II?
Yeah, would take a piece of its coat, a piece of its fur for good luck. So it's got
So
a
it's
little.
bald. We're looking for a bald bison.
Let's see. Let's think about this. Where would it be?
Hey, check this out. This is pretty Art Deco right here. All the patterns along the side and everything.
Train travel is my favorite way to travel. And I really liked going in there and imagining, fantasizing how people back in that time got to travel. It wasn't about getting from point A to B in the fastest, cheapest way. They did it, like I said, with style.
There's no denying it. Passengers leaving from the central terminal definitely started their trip off in style. The lavish concourse opened up to a bustling coffee shop, where a nickel would get you the best cup of coffee around. Across the concourse, the women's restroom was famous for its opulence. And in the passenger waiting room, the ceiling was painted to look like the sky, clouds and all.
Okay, right when you got off the street, into the first place you'd be, into the terminal would be right here. Because the street and the buses.
These places are empty. I don't know if a bison would be in here.
It'd be nice to have a party in here.
bison.
There's a lawnmower in there.
Did you find anything?
No, I found a John Deere lawnmower.
Uh-oh. Someone's preventing us from going in, Brett.
Oh,
Fuck! What are you doing? The hell was that?
Well, he's not bald. Oh, yeah.
Brittany's come eye to eye with a historic treasure. The original stuffed buffalo bison that was once a good luck charm for combat-bound troops.
Is that creepy?
Man!
Even though the large and shaggy beasts never even roamed here, a stuffed bison is a pretty obvious mascot choice for a town called Buffalo.
In fact, Buffalo actually gets its name from its waterways. When French-Canadian explorers came upon the Niagara River 400 years ago, they called it simply Beau Fleuve, which in English is beautiful river.
Now that they've accomplished their mission, Bryce and Brittany set off to summit the station's famous vaulted ceiling.
It is.
Wow. Oh, look at this.
Meanwhile, 100 yards away and some 40 feet below, Steve and Timmy are still mucking their way through the train terminal tunnels in hopes of finding their way up top.
So Brittany and Bryce, they're loving it. They're up there and kind of in the air and in the dry, kind of warm. And Steve and I are subterranean here. We're kind of like these underground dwellers. A lot of cool junk. It doesn't make me feel good.
Well, you know, I'm sure then this place was a commissary. They were making all the meals for the big the luxurious passenger trains.
Oh, really? So this is where the
Cabinet
people that would come in on the luxury trains would come and sit here in this room?
No.
Oh.
They'd make the stuff here and take it out to the trains.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. This is where they weighed the meat.
Buffalo Scale Company, Buffalo, New York.
Kitchen staff prepared the food here for luxury trains and loaded it up on those electric carts that shuttled it right off to the dining cars. The most famous of these luxury rides to stop in Buffalo was the 20th Century Limited. First-class tickets for the 16-hour overnight ride from Chicago to New York City was a pricey $25. The railroad would roll out a crimson carpet to welcome passengers to the train, which gave us the phrase, the red carpet treatment. Up next on Urban Explorers, Bryce and Brittany ascend to a spectacular vantage point and descend in the grandest entrance of the expedition. In Buffalo's abandoned Central Train Terminal, our team of urban explorers are uncovering artifacts from a time when trains were the only way to travel. Up in the terminal office tower, Bryce and Brittany are finding out about the many people who lost their livelihoods when this place finally shut down.
Oh, look at this. Hundreds of people used to work here every day in the office tower of the Central Terminal. It was like a miniature city. It included a radio dispatcher, an express shipping agency, and the Pullman Porters. The Pullman Porters were a group of African-American men that used to work aboard the Pullman trains. Their service was world-renowned. They were also the first African-American union to sign a collective bargaining agreement with a major U.S. corporation.
We gotta go up one more floor.
So
When we first came in, the ceiling was magnificent, and to be inside there was even more interesting actually for me.
Oh, yeah! Can we get in? Oh, my God. Look at that.
I kind of went up the dome until I reached a flat catwalk.
Perfect for you, Brett.
I know.
See the big trusses here?
And just feeling kind of exposed, even though I was in this tight enclosure, because I just was imagining like the whole thing could just drop at any second. Oh, check it out, here's this big hole.
It's these places right here that I really love finding when we're exploring. It's because it's the behind the scenes kind of aspect where you see the structure and how the architecture is held up. Look at this piece of steel right here. So we're around 60 feet above the floor of the passenger concourse. It's a really good view here, and you can also get a good look at the Gustavino tiles. You can just imagine the workers hanging off the steel and placing these tiles one by one with their hands. It took about 8 months to place the whole ceiling of the concourse. Not only do they look good, but they're fireproof, and they also help dampen the sound from the train. So they're using a lot of train stations of this era.
Meanwhile, Steve and Timmy are finally coming up from their subterranean depths.
Daylight!
Nice. This must be the main hall, the main concourse.
Absolutely the main hall.
Oh my God.
Look at the size of this place, man. It's huge.
No, it's nice, right?
How many people?
It
What'd you
made
say?
it for 3,200 an hour.
3,200 an hour?
Never came to that, never came close.
From the start, bad timing plagued the Central Terminal. Less than 4 months after it opened, the stock market crashed on Black Tuesday, October 29th, 1929. With that, train travel plummeted, and so began the Central Terminal's lifelong struggle to stay alive. In the 1940s, the transportation of GIs in World War II brought a short-lived resurgence in train travel. But in the 1950s, trains lost out once again to improvements in the highway system and air travel. In 1970, only 2 trains a day ran out of the Central Terminal. By the end of the decade, the Central Terminal shut down operations for good.
The death of Central Terminal was really tied to the decline of Buffalo as a city. Between the loss of the steel and the grain industries, white flight, and just bad city planning, Buffalo really had its share of ongoing problems. It used to be the 8th largest city in the U.S. Today, it doesn't even make the top 50.
What do you think this was? This was maybe a clock or something like that, huh? Just something in the center of the building.
Oh, I think I hear those guys down there, and we're supposed to meet up with them pretty soon.
Yeah, it's about that time.
Are you ready for a little adventure?
What do you got in mind?
I got a good idea.
Reminds me of Grand Central and like.
Where do you think Brittany and Bryce are right now? What the heck are those guys doing, man? These guys are slacking big time. Look at this. Yo, what's up? You guys were. Where are you guys coming out of? Welcome to our world. We were just down at the subterranean.
How was that?
Cool. All right.
There's always a sense of play when you're in these places. I mean, you explore and you find out these, history and artifacts, but for me, there's always a sense of playfulness, and being able to sneak up on them like that was really fun.
With the Central Terminal exploration under their belt, the team looks to their next location, the forgotten Church of the Transfiguration, once the center of Buffalo's large Polish community. They'll look for the church's bells there, which in a weird way might help save the endangered building.
So where's the church?
But in a city where hundreds of steeples pierce the landscape, how do you set about identifying an abandoned Polish church? The answer is, you go straight to the old neighborhood. In this case, it's Buffalo's East Side, once known as the Polish side of town.
We're driving through what was once the second largest Polish-American community in the U.S. In the mid-1800s in Poland, things were pretty grim. There was war, there was poverty. So a lot of the Poles packed up and moved to Buffalo's East Side. Soon, the concentration of Poles became so great that the city's residents took to calling this area Buffalo's Polonia.
But starting in the 1960s, as Buffalo entered an economic downturn, Polish Americans started fleeing Buffalo for the wealthier, safer suburbs, boarding up their homes, their delis, and their precious churches.
Whoa! Oh, there it is! Look at that thing! The Tower of Power.
As the team suspected, the Church of the Transfiguration, or Trans Church, is in the heart of the old Polish neighborhood. The last time parishioners attended Mass here before the church shut down was in 1994, almost a century after its cornerstone was laid down in 1896.
Hey, you guys! I'm in!
Bree's got a way in.
Here!
Nice.
Leave it to Brittany.
Yeah.
How'd you get in?
I found this cute little window.
Cute window?
Now that they're in, their main objective is to find out if the church bells are still there, ring them, and learn why these artifacts are so important to this forgotten ruin.
All right, what's the plan?
I want to climb with Timmy today.
All right.
Good luck.
Timmy and Bryce head upstairs to hunt for the church bells.
Bell towers are up, Timmy. We gotta ring that bell. Let's check out this way first.
Okay, cool. Oh, this goes over the main part of the church.
Yeah. What I found interesting about the church was the selective use of steel in the construction. Most of it was built out of wood and brick, but the columns in the congregation where the altar was steel, probably cast iron, and steel was really expensive back in the 1890s, so it was a good indication that they wanted this thing to last, the church to be built, and they didn't want to spare any expense.
Right underneath them, Brittany and Steve are looking for artifacts left behind by congregations of the past.
One neat thing about the church was that it was built by the community that then worshiped there. The parish was formed in 1893 and the church was built in 1896. So it's obvious that these families loved the parish enough to put in enough money to build this really incredible building in a space of 3 years.
Oh, wow. Look at the stained glass.
Look at the doves. When we were in the church, we noticed a bunch of holes in the roof, and that's actually from a recent attempt to demolish the building. It's been abandoned about 10 years now, and so developers just want to raise the whole thing and turn it into a parking lot or something. But a local group made up of former parishioners is fighting really hard to keep their old church standing.
Up next on Urban Explorers, Timmy's quest for church bells leads him to a precarious balancing act.
I'm gonna cruise over and take a look at the bells. What?
Our urban exploration team has found a way into Buffalo's boarded-up Church of the Transfiguration, once the cornerstone of Buffalo's large Polish Catholic community. Timmy and Bryce are high up in the building rafters, looking for the church bells that may or may not still be here.
Bells.
Does it look like there could have been bells there?
No, I don't think there are.
Is there any view of anything?
Yeah, it's a beautiful view of the entire structure. I'm gonna cruise over so I can get to the steeple and take a look at the bells. What? You can come over, right? Cruise across.
You want me to follow your lead right now?
Yeah, just come on over. Just you have a good, healthy sense of balance.
The Trans Church steeple is 180 feet high, which means that Timmy's balancing act is taking place close to 150 feet above the street.
Like what, the stairs?
Timmy's a world-class climber.
Those aren't very fun, right?
Please do not try this at home.
When I'm on top of the church beam, there's definitely a healthy feeling of fear. If I wasn't afraid, then I wouldn't be aware of the objective hazards. No, it looks like the louvers are too thin for me to fit in, but I think I actually see some cables coming down from like a floor. It could be the bells, I'm not sure, but this has got to be where they are in the steeple.
Okay, come on back and we'll get up there another way.
Timmy and Bryce soon find their way over and up into the church steeple.
Here they are, we got them.
You got them?
Yeah.
They're actually here?
Uh-huh.
No way.
They didn't get rid of them, which is surprising.
Oh, wow.
Their quest has paid off, and both guys know that the bells here have a relevance that goes far beyond today's exploration.
One of the first things they do when they shut down the Catholic Church to fully deconsecrate it is remove the bells. And so that's why I was totally surprised to find that the bells were still there, because technically that means that it's still a Catholic church.
It's just a little bit of insurance, but the fact that these bells are still here might help save this unique piece of history.
Hey, this one's 1893, dude.
Oh, this one's filled with crap.
I wonder how that, maybe it sounds more like, instead of dong, it sounds like dung.
How do you figure you ring one of these babies?
Just really rail the hammers.
Okay.
Just push the hammer
Okay,
super hard
let
into
him.
him. Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, those guys must have found the bells. You hear that?
Hear ye, hear ye.
All right. Perfect.
Let's go back down and wait
Get
for
down
him.
so we can meet them.
I'd never been able to ring bells like that. I mean, it felt like I was calling the congregation in to pray or something. Accomplished our mission.
Yeah, nice
We
work.
rang them. We called the sheep home. Brittany! Duncan!
Hey, guys, nice work. We heard the bells.
You hear that?
That's great.
Nice. All right, how about getting something to eat, you guys?
Buffalo wings.
After their successful church exploration, the teams earned itself a visit to the Anchor Bar. In this hallowed place, some 40 years ago, was first served up the sauciest of bar foods, the buffalo wing. While they're here, they hope to get some leads to guide them to Buffalo's enormous grain elevators, which at one time were actually considered a national secret. But first, a taste and the story of Buffalo's most famous treat.
Bringing the suicide wings out. There's no way I'm gonna have one. I'm gonna leave it to Brittany. She likes the hot sauce.
You see the seeds? It's a pepper seed right there.
It was a hot October night in 1964 here at the Anchor Bar that owner Teresa Bellissimo first dipped some chicken wings into a spicy chili sauce of her own creation as an improvised late-night snack.
He likes the drumsticks.
I kind of feel it now.
You're starting to sweat.
Oh, dang.
Hot legs. Hot legs. Hot legs. Hot breast. Chicken breast. Chicken breast. Yes! All right, here we are. We're at the home of the Buffalo Wings, the Anchor Bar. Those guys are over there macking wings, drinking beers, but we gotta get to the bottom of this. Where are the grain elevators? We gotta get some information. Let's get to know some of the people in Buffalo. Do you know anything about the grain elevators here in town?
We haul grain out of there, we haul grain there, we haul grain out.
Yeah. And where was the grain coming from? It was coming from the wheat belt out west?
Yep, and was it coming in by ships?
Yeah, coming across the lake.
Coming across the lake. We'd unload it and take it over to the plants along there, and they make all kinds of stuff out of it.
Where would they be in relation to us, the home of the Buffalo
You gotta
Wing?
go with the Skyway,
Okay.
and it's just over the Skyway. You can't miss them.
Yeah, it's obvious, giant
Yeah,
granaries.
overlooking the lake.
Buffalo may be best known for inventing chicken wings. But as Timmy found out, what made Buffalo one of America's wealthiest cities at the turn of the century was an entirely different commodity: grain. From the Midwestern breadbasket, grain was loaded onto trains or barges that came straight to Buffalo, where it was offloaded and stored in massive silos until it continued on south or east along the Erie Canal, and eventually onto Europe.
So what Sam told me was, he used to work down here, he owns a construction company now, and he was a little fuzzy on the details, but he said something about the fact that such barges would pull up that were so big that they would lower 3 giant bulldozers inside the hull to push the grain into the elevator where it would go up and fill the silo. That's how much wheat grain they're pulling out of the Midwest. That's why the United States could basically feed the world.
Buffalo's prime waterfront location along Lake Erie and the Buffalo and Niagara rivers made it the ideal grain port. The grain elevators that lined the rivers along the city's south side were so vast and so efficient that at their height they could store close to 50 million bushels of grain. That's enough to make a loaf of bread for everyone on Earth. In 1915, Buffalo built its biggest concrete grain elevator, a quarter-mile-long behemoth called Concrete Central.
What do we know about this place? Who talked about
Concrete Central shut down in 1966. It's now a 40-acre industrial relic that's a haven for graffiti artists and paintballers.
Yeah.
You sure this is the way, Brett?
Hey,
Hey, you guys, you want to split out? This place is pretty big.
yeah.
Okay.
It's a smart move to split up if they're gonna figure out how this rusted-over giant once worked.
We can see the...
We'll see you in a while.
And we'll get some of that vertical perspective.
Brittany and Timmy will explore the inside of the structure and try to get up top to see how the cement silos were filled. Bryce and Steve will stick to the outside perimeter of Concrete Central to figure out how the grain came off the ships. From the riverside of the structure, they get a good view of the most important parts of the grain elevators.
What we're seeing behind me right now are concrete storage bins, which are part of the grain elevators. So the grain would come up from the ships that were brought in from Lake Superior, through Lake Huron, Lake Erie, moored here, and then the big grain elevators would come down the marine legs and they would pull up the grain to the top, and they would go to the top of these storage bins.
When the St. Lawrence Seaway opened in 1959, that provided a direct route from the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean, and that made Buffalo obsolete. So then Buffalo really had lost almost all of its economic basis, and the city started deteriorating, eventually leaving behind these really monstrous relics we see today with, no hope for their future use.
Concrete Central, like all but one of Buffalo's grain elevators, has long ceased operations, but its hulking ruins remain, too expensive for the city to tear down. On the other side of Concrete Central, Brittany and Timmy are trying to find a way up into the complex.
What's in here, Brittany?
There's all these weird paint splashes all over the walls, Timmy.
Little do they know, they're soon to find out exactly where those paint splatters come from, and discover why Concrete Central was once considered so vital to the national interest that its very construction was kept top secret. In Buffalo, New York, our four urban explorers are scaling the rusted ruins of Concrete Central, once the city's biggest grain elevator. Bryce and Steve are on the outside perimeter, trying to figure out how the grain was raised up from ships and transferred into the giant concrete silos. Timmy and Britt are inside, hoping to find a way up to the top of the storage silos and see how they were filled.
Concrete Central was Buffalo's biggest grain storage facility. The place was massive. We were in there walking underneath all the storage bins, and there were like 250 of them lined up side by side for over a quarter of a mile. It's 4.3 million bushels of grain. Well, that's a lot of cereal.
Concrete Central was so crucial to the U.S. grain source and to feeding Americans that in World War I, it was considered a major homeland security risk. In an effort to protect this U.S. food source from possible enemy contamination, the World War I-era construction of Concrete Central was kept top secret.
So this is the real elevator part of the whole grain elevator thing, right?
Yeah,
the
we used to
marine
call
leg.
it the marine leg, right?
Yeah, because
Why do you figure?
marine because they used it to get the grain out of the boats, and leg because it actually had a leg in it. The early ones looked more like, a single spout, but probably somewhere inside this thing is an extendable spout that would come out to the holds of ships right there.
A proboscis, if you will.
Exactly, yeah, like an elephant's trunk. And it had this endless series of buckets on a loop that would just pull it all the way up to the top.
Before Buffalo invented the grain elevator, grain was offloaded literally on the backs of laborers who hauled barrels full of grain on and off the ships. But in the 1840s, two Buffalonian engineers invented a steam-powered vertical conveyor belt equipped with buckets that would scoop grain directly up from the ships moored alongside the elevator. In Instead of hand-carrying barrels of grain, workers simply dragged grain toward the conveyor mouth that carried it up to a scale where it was weighed and distributed to the storage silos.
Totally intact. Here it is, the whole, the trunk of the elephant, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this roller up here, it would just this whole thing would just be shoved outwards, and this thing would be pushed out the window, and then they must have been able to lower it. This elevator itself, this tube would basically just come out and far enough to clear out into the water, and then they'd lower it 40 feet down to the water into the hold of a boat. Wow, Bryce, they had these buckets spaced every foot or so. And to think, grain you or I once ate as a child may have come through these very buckets. The grain trade officially died in Buffalo just over 40 years ago, but there's still actually a couple ships that deliver grain to Buffalo using a modern mechanism that eliminates the need for the grain scoopers. The last of Buffalo's old-fashioned grain scoopers actually scooped its last final scoop of grain in February of 2003, marking the end of a technology that had lasted for 150 years.
While Steve and Bryce are starting to put pieces of their puzzle together, Britt and Timmy have found a way to get some elevation. To accomplish their part of the mission and see how the silos were filled, they'll need to go higher, which presents a challenge.
Timmy, what do you think? Is it gonna go?
Let me take a look. Yeah, I can see up another 5 or 6 stories, and the treads are gone all the way. So, I mean, just judging, right now I'm 30 feet above the ground, which isn't so bad, but it's a clear shot all the way down to the bottom. I think, objectively, the hazards are too high. So I'd say it doesn't...
Turns out in 1976, 2 kids were running around at the top of Concrete Central, and they fell to their death. So since then, the city's done everything in their power to prevent people from getting up there. Brittany and I really wanted to get to the top, but after weighing the pros and cons, it seemed like it was going to be too objectively hazardous. Sometimes you got to know when to call it quits. We called it quits.
How it works at the top, so...
Oh, check it out, Dunk. They cut down all the treads and stringers all the way up. Well, the stringers are there, but the treads are
Oh, man.
Someone didn't want us getting up.
That's no good.
Probably head back and find Timmy and Brittany. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right.
Up next, the team heads to an unscheduled 4th site, where they find out the strange but true connection between breakfast cereal and teenage sexuality.
Rise, Duncan!
Come on.
At Buffalo's biggest abandoned grain elevator, our urban explorers found out why Buffalo was once the center of the world's grain trade. But they failed to summit the silos and see how these giants were filled.
No, we couldn't get to the top, and we tried it, and then you see this thing that goes up here? Same deal, the treads were gone.
Really?
So we should find another one. What do you guys say we go to another grain silo?
Yeah.
Let's go check out some more elevators. I mean, when I was over there, I saw stacks of them. Whoa! Oh, Jesus, dude. What the hell was that, man? What the hell are these guys, man? Predators here. What the hell?
Jungle Man! Whoa!
The team has unsuspectingly stumbled into a paintball battle.
You got me. What's that, bro?
We're in the middle of a war. We gotta go.
Wait, you're in the middle of a war?
You're
There's a
fighting
war
right
zone
now?
right now. Everybody get down.
People are around? There's other ones? There's more of you?
I don't want to be an urban explorer
Really?
anymore.
So
All right, later,
Oh,
dude.
see ya!
Have fun.
Oh my God!
Oh my God, look at him. Yo, get that in. Yo. Whoa. School. We give up. We're done. Well, look, they're shooting back. We're good. We're done.
know that guy. We didn't even know.
We don't know what's going on here. What did we get ourselves into, you guys? We're still shooting at each other, man.
We were trying to get on top of here, you know?
Shots went everywhere.
That's not going to happen. This place is gutted. You guys are looking for Niagara Falls, the Nabisco plant.
Yeah?
Yep, it's been abandoned for maybe a year now. It's got everything in it still.
That'd be cool.
Can you get up on that? Up
Yep.
on top?
All the way up.
How far away is it from here?
Niagara Falls, maybe 30, 40 minutes.
Jumpy around here, man. Safety's on, guys. Safety's on.
Yeah, we're friends. We're friends.
You know, you guys are looking for Niagara Falls, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Nice.
Niagara Falls,
on up
Nabisco, grain elevators to the summit.
That was good.
But of course, they'd know all these places, all the blown out buildings.
Thanks to the paintball encounter, the urban exploration team has added an unexpected 4th site to the day's expedition. The recently shut down Nabisco grain elevator located in the town of Niagara Falls, 20 miles north of Buffalo.
So we're headed to Nabisco, the home of shredded wheat, my favorite breakfast cereal. It was invented in 1892, and at the time, the main competitors in the cold cereal market were Kellogg's Corn Flakes and Jackson's Granola, both of which were actually marketed as antidotes to masturbation, which was called self-abuse in those days and was considered to be a gigantic problem, the scourge of the teen population.
Unlike Nabisco, Kellogg and Graham claimed that if teens gave up red meat, said to increase carnal desires, and consumed lots of cereal daily, they'd be spared the temptation to self-pollute.
Personally, I just preferred the taste of shredded wheat.
The Nabisco grain elevator shut down in 2001, so this is a chance for the team to explore a grain elevator that's not rusted over. Yet.
How are we getting in here?
The sole objective here is to do what they couldn't do at Concrete Central, summit the building and see where the grain goes after it's elevated.
You know what
National Biscuit Corporation.
Yeah, you know.
Nabisco.
Yeah, the Triscuits. Well, Triscuits were they started Triscuits at the timeline like in the early 1900s.
I like Triscuits.
Yeah,
I like them with pickles on them.
I love Triscuits.
I really like shredded wheat, though.
Of course we are.
Oh, hey.
I like breakfast cereals.
You know,
anytime,
shredded
day
wheat
or
was
night.
for masturbators.
That was granola.
Oh, was that?
Smells.
They've now made it up top to the head house, the structure above the storage silos.
This is great. This is what we couldn't do at Concrete Central. Look down into one of these massive storage bins. Each one of these things, when filled to the top, would hold 150,000 bushels of grain. That's a lot of cereal. It was also actually a really big explosion hazard. Grain dust can be more combustible than gasoline under the right conditions. So you can imagine how dangerous this was.
Grain dust-related blasts are the grain industry's biggest safety hazard. In the past 30 years, more than 300 grain elevators have been destroyed by spontaneous explosions. That doesn't include the close to 30,000 fires that have self-ignited inside grain elevators.
Kaboom.
After exploring the top of the Nabisco grain elevator, the guys know that they'll never take their breakfast cereal for granted again.
I'm always amazed at technology like the grain elevators because people take things like this for granted. I mean, who really knows where the grain comes for their bread or for their cereal? And this is like a major stop. This place is where, you know, everything happens, and it's the engineering that goes into it that makes it possible.
But mission accomplished. You figured it out.
I think so.
That's summited.
From the top of the structure, the gang takes a moment to admire the view of Niagara Falls.
Missed Niagara Falls.
Yeah, I think that is.
Looking over the 150-foot chutes that hydraulically powered most of this region during its heyday is the right place to end a day exploring some of Buffalo's industrial past.
On a day's work. All right, you guys, let's boogie.
After a job well done, Timmy, Brittany, Bryce, and Steve can bid farewell to Buffalo and hit the road for their next adventure.
The paint. Sorry, bro. My bad. All right, let's get out of here. Step on it, Bryce.
Christ will still be found, whether you're here